Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome back to another episode of Take Me Out to the podcast. I am here with the wonderful Dan from Sadman Baseball. How are you doing today, Dan?
Johnny, I'm honored. Thank you for having me. I'm both honored and a little depressed that I'm going to be disappointing you so much during this interview.
I've been told by many people that I'm mediocre and mediocrely disappointing, so we'll fit together just great.
We're going to fit in just fine. Perfect.
First thing I have to ask you is, so you did go to film school, correct?
This is correct. I did go to film school. Yeah, I graduated in 2011.
Yep. So what did you learn at film school that you either remember or that you still keep with you today?
It's a good question. It's something unique that I went to because I didn't go to just a film school. I did go to art school. So I went to the North Carolina School of the Arts. The integration of not just the technical side of filmmaking, but the art side of it, understanding the communication skills that come along with the visual arts is something that I've taken with me, not just to what you see on YouTube with the Sadman channel, but also in my career. It's actually helped me throughout, and I've had various jobs. I have a different edge to me because I'm able to communicate visually. So being able to understand how people respond to images, moving images, and what makes good design has helped me. And I'm not a foremost expert at it, but I would say that it's been something that I'm better at than most, if that makes any sense.
Yep. So I've talked to Bobby from Out of Here Baseball, Bailey from Foolish Baseball, and Dawson Wright. And at the end, I asked them, who's someone that would be great to talk to? And all three of them did mention your name. And Bobby from Out of Here Baseball specifically said that you were too good for YouTube and that your video creation skills are just light years above anything else he's ever seen.
Johnny, you're doing a great job of flattering me. And it really is, it is wonderful that everyone thinks, and says these very, very kind things about me. But it's not true at all. It is amazing to me that so many people will watch my stupidly sad videos and come back for more, right? So, thank you, right? Thank you for that.
So where did this Sadman persona come from? Because you put so much of your personal emotions and your personal story into these videos. Where did that idea spring from?
Yeah, so this is a great question. And it's something that I've actually been thinking about a little bit about, because I do feel like I'm a different kind of breed here. I was watching a documentary about a palliative care doctor who was helping parents along with the grieving process for children that were on their way to dying, right? And sorry to bring that, such a downer here, but hey, I'm on brand. The thing that she had said that she realized about herself was that many people want to run away from the things that make them sad or any sort of ugly sort of feeling. And she said that she was not afraid to go there. It's not that it doesn't hurt any less for her, but that she's not afraid to go there because she thinks it's important. And I've kind of felt that way my whole life in that I've been drawn to, very sad movies, sad stories. I've had to battle with depression at different times in my life, and the sad stories, the sad movies, the being able to it's helped me empathize with folks. And I've realized too that there is sort of a pent up sort of an emotional constipation, right, with some folks when they're not able to express exactly what it is they're feeling during an ugly time, where they're confronted with something that, I don't know how I feel, so I'm going to do something else. And you actually kind of see this on the baseball field when you see pitchers throwing at hitters, or pimping home runs, and the pitcher's embarrassed, so they're going to just throw out the next batter. Like that sort of thing where I kind of shake my head and I'm like, guys, you just, you got to be able to handle your emotion a little bit better. So all that to say that I've kind of always been okay with going to the sad side of things. And when I looked at the landscape on YouTube, I thought there was something kind of missing, like, my voice was a little bit underrepresented on YouTube. And so I wanted to fix that. That's kind of where it came from. Also, I think being a little like overly sad is kind of funny.
And you talked a lot about your voice there and is finding that voice. How much of that finding that specific sadder voice has been pre-film school, in film school, or maybe after film school and the development of the sad man?
It's all of it. So I think recently it's been a little bit, how do I say this correctly? When you, and Johnny, you'll find this too, when you get out of school and you start doing just the day-to-day grind, you're doing the same thing every day. And then you're even confronted with maybe some personal tragedies. You might, whatever it might be. It can be relational. It can be someone who's fallen under illness or what have you. Everyone goes through a bunch of, are you allowed to swear on this podcast?
You can if you want.
Okay. You go through some tough shit, right? So when you go through that, it kind of shapes you as a human being, right? And that's not to say that college isn't like that. You're just more exposed afterwards, right? So you have to deal with it. So as I got out of school, I think that's where it primarily came from. My wife and I have, gone through a lot, just not relationally, but like through our health and, through our family. And through that, I've been exposed to a tragedy that makes me not afraid at all to go to the sad spaces, because I think it's important to do. And I think that a lot of people, especially younger people, need a kind of like almost like a vaccination, right? Like a little bit of sadness here is going to help you, when the bigger stuff comes along.
Do you agree with kind of the paradigm that you have to feel some sort of sadness in order to also feel true happiness?
Kind of. I think I don't necessarily view it so black and white. I think it's more about, feeling sad is part of being human. Like you're not going to avoid it, right? Yeah. You're not going to avoid being sad. So if you try, then it's, it's just not going to end up, it's not going to go well for you. So I think that I wouldn't say, hey, if you want to be happy, got to be sad. No, it doesn't quite work like that. I think that you just can't, you have to embrace it when it comes, right? If you want to be a healthy, happy person, you have to understand that sadness is going to come. It probably won't come when you want it to or when you plan to. And you got to be okay with that, and you got to deal with it. And then from there, you can experience some happiness.
And how important has your wife been in sort of dealing with all of these terrible
Johnny,
moments?
What a good question, bud. Using that journalism degree, right? She's been amazing. So, part of coming out of school, I met my wife right before I was about to graduate. And it was a situation where I was planning to either move out to LA or New York to pursue a degree. But I met her, and she was a difference maker for me. And I kind of did have to decide whether or not I wanted to pursue a career or pursue her and pursue a family. And I did end up choosing her. And Johnny, it was the best decision that I've ever made. Okay. So I don't want that to come, I don't want anyone to feel like because I didn't follow her or follow the dream that I had as a filmmaker that was a wrong decision. It absolutely was. And Mackenzie her name's Mackenzie. Mackenzie's been incredibly supportive. She understands how important it is for me to be creative, and she has been a great foil for me, like a reciprocating force for me. So when I am feeling maybe more sad than I should be about stuff, or if I'm throwing a pity party, she's always right there to set me straight or to lift me up, either way. And yeah, I think that's just a long-winded answer of saying she's been great.
And your wife is in healthcare, correct? She works in
That's
healthcare.
right. Mm-hmm.
How have these last, going on 6 months been like for her?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's probably the forefront of our anxiety is, she's working on the front lines and she's working with COVID patients. So she's exposed every day. And so she's having to take the proper precautions. And every day, she's going in and we're kind of shrugging our shoulders, wondering whether or not she's gotten exposed. Now, obviously I think it's gotten better. We've gotten used to that world now, but early on, it was a constant state of just a high hum of anxiety. It's been wild.
Yeah, my older brother's a teacher up in Boston, and his
Mm-hmm.
wife's also in healthcare, and it's just echoing a lot of the points. They're just so, and they have two
Mm-hmm.
very young children, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just terrified of just anything happening.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's an awful state of affairs that we're in.
Yeah. Let's bring it to something a little less life or death.
Sure.
So your very first video on Sadman Baseball was about
Mm-hmm.
Corey Kluber, and
Yes.
unfortunately, Corey Kluber has only thrown 1 inning
Mm-hmm.
since that comebacker.
Mm-hmm.
How has that made you feel in terms of that?
Well, I knew this was a possibility, right? So a large part of why I loved watching Corey pitch was that 2016 playoff run where he just seemed unstoppable. And, when you see someone who's been so great at, performing and then seeing them, witnessing an injury like that is always, not even in the back of your mind, but in the forefront of your mind is this could be the end. That could be it. Right. And I knew early on that could be it for Corey. And that's kind of what prompted me. Obviously, it was what prompted me to make the video because I knew that we shouldn't forget the great stuff that he did. And, I wanted to share how he made me feel.
Do you feel like that kind of thing could also happen to Justin Verlander with the Tommy John so late in his career?
Always. Yeah, of course. Of course. And this is kind of, I get a lot of folks, and I asked for it. I asked for a lot of folks to say, hey, what do you want me to make a video on? And, a lot of folks will say, hey, you should do a video on, this pitcher, like Brandon Webb. He was great, and then he got injured, and now he's not playing. Yeah, insert any other, pitcher who's on a decline because of injury. It's a common story, right? And I think that when we look at Justin Verlander, everyone has said what we know he's a Hall of Famer. He's a great pitcher. Could be the end, and I think people know that could be it. I don't think it will. Something in me says he's going to be pushing hard to come back, but it could be. And we need to be able to celebrate everything that he's done as well.
Which do you think is more sad, a pitcher's career being cut short to injuries, or the flip of the switch where they were on top of the world and now they just can't get it done?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what is more sad? Just comparing, let's see, which is more tragic? Well, what do you think?
I feel like I'm a Dodgers fan, so I've seen kind
Mm-hmm.
of this story with Clayton Kershaw,
Mm-hmm.
who's my
Yeah.
favorite pitcher of all time. He's so good in the regular season, and then come
Mm.
October, it feels
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a
Something
junkie,
happens, man. Yeah,
just
something
coming
happens.
back every time, expecting
Mm-hmm.
something different, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm. I can kind of tell you this as a Braves fan, where we just get knocked out of the first round of the playoffs every time we make it. That's just kind of what we do. Kind of like the Twins and Yankees. The Twins always do that. Like, I think it's sad to almost like just be within a grasp of something, right? So when a pitcher gets injured, you can say, oh, well, it was because, his UCL snapped. That's why it sucks. We can mourn that. But when a pitcher just kind of loses it, where it seems like it's so close. Like if they could just, stop throwing, start throwing strikes, they would be great. I think that's marginally more tragic.
And your explanation and just the graphics for Nolan Arenado's defense in that video, it's easily the cleanest and clearest explanation of both DRS and UZR that I've ever seen. How do you go about some of those advanced analytics and break them down so that, idiots like me can understand it?
Oh, Johnny, don't be hard on yourself. I think so. I've been, a baseball fan my whole life. I've been getting, I started getting into the analytics somewhere around 2012, 2013. And I always had a hard time understanding like the defensive metrics because I didn't see a good visual on it, right? And this kind of comes back to the film thing where I was like, someone's got to just show people how this is working visually so that they can understand it. And because unfortunately, I'm in the data world too, but like unfortunately, a lot of data scientists are not very visual people. They're numbers oriented, but they're not really visual. And so they can say, I'll write a paper or an article about what DRS is. And it's like, okay, that's nice, dude. But, I can't really visualize that so much. So I went about, I said, we've got to be able to show this on the screen in a way that's not just clean, but clear. Like I kept trying to say, like, how can I show this clearer? Or, what makes this, how can I gain clarity on this, the stat and, bring some understanding to it. Because, Foolish does a great job. Bailey does a great job with Foolish Baseball, explaining some stats. I want to try and take where, he's more analytics heavy. I don't shy away from it, but it's more of like, this is part of the story of this player, or what I'm trying to say. And I think when you can make it a smaller element of something bigger, of someone's enjoyment of the player or a sport, it's less intimidating. And when you can do it in a clear way and in a way that's, uses the right type of words, and you're a journalist major, you probably know this too, like communicating something in a language that's clear is very important when you're communicating to an audience. And I don't know if anyone cares about anything I just said, but that's the way I went about it.
So were you a kid like me where it helps you so much more to see something visually rather than, using that numbers approach to it?
Yeah. I think I hear a lot of people say, I'm a visual learner. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, everyone seems that way, but I would say that I think everyone to a degree is a visual learner. Okay. Not as much as others are, right? But I think everyone has something within them that where they can see something almost tangible, like they can touch it, that they're able to hold that information a little bit better. And if no one was a visual learner, then I don't understand why we would have like chalkboards or whiteboards in school, right? So yeah, I was visual. I wouldn't say that I was necessarily more than anyone else though.
Yeah. So one of the greatest things that I picked out of your Mariners video was the quote at the very end: "Baseball is a low stakes way to be sad." I agree with that 100%. Did you know about that quote prior to making that video?
Yeah. Meg Rowley, who's the editor-in-chief at Fangraphs, had said it several times. I think she's written it a few times in her articles, but I heard her say it on the Effectively Wild podcast several times. And it rings so true. Okay. So if, baseball is a sort of grand metaphor on life, right? You win some, you lose some. Most of the time you fail. It's going to kick you when you're down. Sometimes it's great, but what makes it great is that it's a safe spot for you to be sad, right? You can, financially or relationally, it's not going to hurt you in such a terrible way. It's a safe spot where you can be sad. You can get that feeling, you can process it, move on from it, and you'll be better for it. And I think that's one of the most attractive things about baseball, sports in general, but baseball specifically, just because of the way it's designed. It's kind of designed to just make you sad.
Yeah, and you've spoken a lot about your failures and including there. So
Hmm.
how have you been able to channel those failures or learn from them and the sadder times in
Hmm.
your life to move forwards
Yeah,
and for future success?
sure. I mean, here's kind of the thing. A lot of my audience are young. They're probably 16 to 24-year-old males, white males, probably, right?
Yeah.
And at that time of my life, I was very concerned about failing. Like, I didn't want to be a failure, a loser, or just fall on my face. And so when I was able to kind of get outside of that and able to kind of look back on that, I realized that that was nothing. That it really didn't mean anything. But the feeling was real, right? Um, so when I was looking at the Mariners video and all of their failures, and just tried to make the connection of, look, just because you're failing, or that you experience a failure, doesn't mean that there was nothing either to gain from it, or there was nothing of value in that experience. That it's actually something that shapes who you are, right? And I tried to give that example from my life. And it seemed to resonate really well with a lot of people. And I didn't feel like it was such a big deal.
Yeah. Have you ever had any reservations about including so much personal detail in your videos, or do you think it helps to
No,
serve the story?
100%. I think that's actually kind of one of the things that's lacking from the YouTube space, in my mind, in baseball, because YouTube's such a personal medium. It's literally you or your creation on a screen for millions to see. So that's naturally a vulnerable thing. Now, I'm not up here giving pot shots, doing react videos, or any sort of YouTube drama. I'm not trying to go for anything like that, and that never comes through. But what I do try to do is show a little bit of myself in these videos, because that's the stuff that people connect with, right? When you think about, the people that you enjoy watching, I mean, people you enjoy on YouTube. I don't know if you watch anything on Twitch, or, any movies that you see, characters that you resonate with. It's all because they were being vulnerable, right? They were able to show you a little bit of who they are. Maybe not all of it, who they are, spilling their guts out to you, but they're able to show you something that makes you either empathize or realize that you're not alone in how you feel about something, or the way you experience the world. So it was essential to me, not just that I wanted to, but I thought, if I'm going to be Sadman Baseball and I'm making sad videos, I gotta put myself in this. So that was my thought process.
Yeah. And do you feel like that just really sets you apart from most of the crowd? I mean, do you think it draws people
Yeah.
in, or do you think it's just kind of your duty in the type of content that you make to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I've said that I'm probably, you know, baseball's probably baseball's therapist a little bit, right? Helping you process all the stuff that you experience during the season. I don't necessarily view it as a duty. I do think, purposefully I tried to set myself apart by doing that. And yeah, I think it's brought a little bit, success is the wrong word, because I've made 4 videos, right? And it's not like they're getting millions of views, like Foolish is. But I think that I've just chosen to go a certain direction, and it's I'm proud of the little niche that I've kind of carved out. I think the people who watch it and who like it and stay, like, really really enjoy what I have to put out there, and the ones that don't, stay away, and that's totally fine, and kind of by design too. I know I'm not for everybody, but the ones that it is for, I think it really resonates, and they tend to really enjoy it.
Yeah, you spoke about being baseball's therapist, and
Hmm.
your latest video that you put out, your baseball counseling session, was
Hmm.
very different from anything you've done,
That's
obviously.
right.
But you also spoke about a lesson that you learned in counseling, which was controlling what you can control.
That's
And
right.
how important has that been, not just for the past 6 months with everything happening, but for your entire life?
Yeah, it's guys. If you get a chance to go to counseling, I honestly feel like you should. Not because, not in any sort of like pop psychologist sort of shrinky way, but just to kind of talk about things in your life, and having just a nice outside perspective on it really does you wonders. And this was just kind of one of the lessons that I had learned in some of my counseling sessions, was that things can frustrate you, they can situations can upset you, and sometimes the anxieties that we feel are because there are some upsetting things that are not within your control, right? And once I came to realize that, it helps a lot with situations where I feel like this heightened sense of anxiety, whether it's something at work I can't control. I feel like my boss is mad at me, or I feel like whatever, I did something to hurt I said something, I hurt my wife, I shouldn't have said that, or something, whatever, if you feel that sort of heightened anxiety, you can, it's a tool, it's not a catch-all, but it's a tool that you can use to say, okay, what can I do right now to either make the situation better or to make myself feel better, right? And I released that video whenever Manfred was kind of hinting at maybe no season, if we can't get this done, and people were kind of flipping out. And I saw a lot of that sort of heightened, oh no, God, like this terror. And I said, well, I feel it too, but just let's have sort of a tempered feel about a tempered way of thinking about this. And that's kind of where that was just, I felt compelled to do something because I hadn't made a video in a while. And I felt that was kind of like, that's where I was like, I have a duty to say this to everybody.
Yeah. And I feel like baseball being back has allowed, at least me personally, obviously with school being out in the summer, there's less of that structure just in your day, in your life. And I'm sure I'll experience that once I graduate, but something about like the structure of baseball coming back and being like, like my Dodgers are playing every single day. That's been really helpful in a way these past couple months. I mean, has
Yeah,
that happened to
absolutely.
you?
Yeah, I think that just having baseball there as like, so I haven't watched every night. When we weren't having any baseball, I thought like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to binge on baseball when it comes back. And that actually wasn't the case. It was more of like, well, I'm glad it's there. So now if I want to, I can turn on a game at night and watch the Braves play, and those are great. Those are great nights. But it's not been that sort of everyday thing that I thought that I would want. But just by, I think there really has been a difference for me, this COVID season before baseball started and then after baseball started. There's been something really healing just mentally. I think everyone's mental health has probably gotten a little bit better having, sports on, but most for me, having baseball available has been really helpful.
Yeah, I definitely had another existential crisis in like March or April or something, and that was just
yeah, absolutely.
But I know it just feels nice. And I guess, where am I going with this? I guess, how has that investment of counseling for you helped you to kind of manage just everything in the world piling on?
Yeah, so counseling has it has literally been the best within the past 5 years. The best decision that I could have made is to go to like a regular counseling session where it's just to check in, like, okay, how are you doing? Where are your anxieties? Where's are you feeling depressed? Do you know why? Did you just feel any triggers? Those sorts of questions just how really help just a self-awareness. And when you start being self-aware of like how things are affecting you, you can maybe look around at other people and say, oh, I get what they're feeling is how I was feeling about this, and I can empathize, but can like not fix someone, but like offer a solution. Like, okay, let's calm down a little bit. Let's think about what we can control, right? What can we do actually right now? and the ability to have the tools, because that's what counseling is doing, is it's giving you the tools to handle these situations, right? So if you're going to build a house and all you've got is a hammer, it's going to be really tough, right? But if I give you a hammer and a saw and a measuring tape and some nails, things don't get so scary to build a house, right? You can okay, maybe I can go about doing this, and that's kind of what counseling does.
Yeah, and speaking just of just mental health in general, Skip Bayless made some incredibly just insensitive comments regarding Dak
Yeah.
Prescott's mental health. What was your initial reaction and maybe your delayed reaction to those comments?
Yeah, I mean, I have to, and I hope most people do this too. When you see pundits, when you see people on television whose job it is to create engagement with their product, with their brand, they're going to say some stupid shit. Okay, so initial reaction, of course, is like, well, that was completely insensitive and ignorant and harmful. But at the same time, I was like, okay, this is a dude who's a grifter. He's real, it's his job to do that. But it was harmful. I don't want to get, let that fall by the wayside. You said something that was very harmful for a lot of people, but the sort of backlash against that was encouraging to see that a lot of people felt like that was some bullshit. And whenever, I thought about it, I was like, this guy's a douche, whatever. But it doesn't affect me, because I know that it's not, it's not a weakness, that to admit that you need help. It's actually strength, to do that. And especially when it's someone, when you're talking about someone who passed away, so it tells me either one, he's grifting, two, he may have, when I was talking about that bottling of emotions, that, that could be what he's going through. I don't know, but it's something that it made me upset. But at the same time, I realized that he's just some schmo, whatever.
Yeah, it does feel like, thankfully, thanks to athletes like Kevin Love, Dak Prescott, even Kyrie Irving talking about those mental health struggles, even Stephen A. Smith talking right after that about the passing of his own brother. It does feel like we're moving towards the point where people aren't afraid or ashamed to say, hey, I had to go to counseling. I had to go to therapy. It's really nice.
Yeah, this kind of comes from this sort of stoicism of like, I'm not going to show any emotion. That comes from masculinity, probably, from World War I, World War II, where men had to kind of keep that under control while they were on the battlefield. And, everyone was in the army, was in battle, had to be disciplined. They were in the military. And so they brought that down and, viewed any sort of feeling or admission of these, sadness or anger was a weakness. And, that's just kind of left over from that, is what I think. And I think we're moving past that, where, the science has gotten better and we realize, that's harmful.
Yeah. And I know I haven't always been perfect in realizing that within myself and others. And have you ever fallen into that kind of trap of toxic masculinity, whether it was when you were younger or even a little more recently?
Yeah, well, when we talk about, and obviously toxic masculinity has a lot of facets to it. One I think we're kind of hammering down here is just that nothing can hurt me. I'm impenetrable. With regards to how I feel and how I act. Just like I'm invincible. Emotionally. That doesn't happen so much to me, but it has. I've been very guarded in the past, where I didn't want, anyone to I didn't want to be vulnerable to anyone. So recently, no, not in that facet. I strive to be the opposite of that. All right. What about yourself?
Definitely more when I was younger, but even a little bit when I first started college, going to a place where I knew maybe 2 people in the entire school. Like I go to UCF, so it's a big school and I'm from Florida. So a couple of people from my high school went there, but it's just, dropped back into this sea of unknown and just unknown people, unknown places, living away from my parents for the first time for any extended period of time. It's very easy to see yourself reserved in that manner. And getting out of that after the first month or 2 was very difficult, but definitely a lot better now.
And I'll make a difference between like being reserved and being like, it's just, I'm not, I'm never sad, or I'm never unsure of myself. There's a difference between like being guarded and being ridiculously overconfident, so cut yourself a little break there, bud. You're okay. You're doing all right. That's a hard time for everybody, first year of college.
Well, Dan, I don't want to keep you for too much longer. You've given me so much of your time already. I want to thank you so much for being here. And
of course,
something we like to ask all our guests, if you could sit down with anyone in the world, alive or dead, for 30, 40 minutes like we're doing today, who would it be and why?
Oh, anybody alive or dead? I don't know. What have other people said?
Bobby said Mike Trout, but then he said Nick Swisher. Bailey from Foolish Baseball said Jesus. Dawson Wright said Willie Mays, and Alec Palmer from Momentum said Mac Miller.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I'm gonna do one that I think is a little bit off the wall, and maybe it's not like this person is like my favorite person of all time that I want to sit down with. So I take a lot of inspiration outside of baseball videos, right? So I watch them. I watch Bailey, I watch Bobby. 5 Points, Urinating Tree. The Stark Raving Sports guys are really good. I don't really take inspiration from them. I like to. Are you familiar with the Kaizo Mario scene? You know anything about that? That's
it's ringing a bell.
That's where these guys. There's a community online where they take the Super Mario world from Super Nintendo. They take like the elements of that and they rearrange it into new levels that are ridiculously. difficult.
Is that like the really hard like Mario? That's just
that's
soul-crushingly difficult.
Yeah, those guys. So I wouldn't say I'm part of that community, but I'm very much like, watch all those guys that do that. And one of them is named Barbarous King. I don't know his real name. I think his real name is Chris. But I watch him on Twitch a bunch, and he's designed one of the best video games that I've ever seen called Grand Poo World 2. He's a really funny, dry humor guy. Just genius level creator, like his design elements, when we talk about clarity, like he's really good about that. I'd love to just sit and chat with him about how he goes about designing those video games. That's what I'm thinking right now. I'd love to see him.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful weekend. And
cool.
Just, again, thank you so much.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome back to another episode of Take Me Out to the Podcast. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Sadman Baseball. Today I'm here with host of HTF Bets, Robert Husby, and Alex Funderburke, unofficial co-host of Take Me Out to the Podcast. Robert, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Excited to be back on Take Me Out. Can't wait to get started.
Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Mad at the White Sox and mad at the voters who didn't give Gio Urshela that gold glove. But, we're living.
I'll say it. I said it on Twitter last night. My one non-political tweet of the evening. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he deserved the Gold Glove, in my opinion. In my sabermetric opinion, Gio Urshela is good. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is in the same echelon as Chapman and Arenado at third base. But speaking of managers, let's look at the better manager choice so far. AJ Hinch to the Tigers. Robert, what is your opinion of that?
Well, I hate not the Lions. I hate the Tigers now because I'm not going to support a cheater. But I mean, as far as a managerial hire, it's a good hire. I mean, AJ Hinch is a great manager. The only reason he was out of the league for a year was because of his suspension. Regardless of what I think personally about the hiring, it's a good hiring. I think this Tigers team, a lot of the Detroit sports teams right now, they need some ray of hope to look forward to. And the Tigers getting a competent manager that can take them that next step, as he did with the Astros, I think can really help the Tigers moving forward. So, yeah, biases aside, personal things aside, it's a great hire. I think he's going to do well there. I think the Tigers hopefully will finally be able to turn it around. It's been a long time since they've been a competitive team, so it's looking good for them, at least here in the offseason to start.
Yeah, AJ Hinch, obviously the manager of the Astros during the 2017 crapshoot of a season that they won. But also, Alex, he's a good manager, and they've got a good farm system. A lot of their top arms are coming up. What are your expectations for this AJ Hinch-led Tigers?
I mean, the expectations are high. They have one of the better farm systems. Their guys are coming up. Casey Mize, I think, is going to be a stud of a pitcher out of Auburn. It's going to be a fun team to watch in that AL Central. Do I think they're going to be a playoff team this year or maybe next year? No. But like 2, 3, 4 years down the road, this could be a very, very good team. If they keep that young core together and AJ Hinch stays, and as much as I hate AJ Hinch, he's a great manager. He's perfect for that job. And he played for the Tigers as a player. I think that's cool, seeing a former player come manage that team. But that Tigers team is going to be a lot of fun in a few years.
Speaking of a team that's a lot of fun and made a pretty weird choice, in my opinion, a very bad choice, Tony Larussa to the Chicago White Sox. Alex, you've been wanting to rant about this for a while. Let's go, buddy.
Okay, so you're the Chicago White Sox. You have arguably the face of black baseball in Tim Anderson. Now, I'm not going to say Tony La Russa is a racist, but he has said some questionable things as early as 2016. Now you kind of put Tim Anderson in the corner, right? If I'm Tim Anderson, I'm mad right now because you hire the one guy that goes against most of the things I believe in. And he's probably the face of that team, if not Abreu or Luis Robert. But you have a very passionate black fan base too with the White Sox. Like, black people love the White Sox because of Tim Anderson. Like, I root for the White Sox to do good because of Tim Anderson. And I know a lot of people feel that same way. Same way with the Mariners. But you have the face of black baseball, and you hire this guy who goes against almost everything Tim Anderson has publicly stood for. And it's very questionable. And not to mention the baseball side of this, like, he's someone who loves to switch pitchers, like batter by batter. Can't do that anymore. So baseball-wise, I don't know if this is a good fit. But publicly and socially, this is dumb.
Yeah, Tony La Russa has gone on record multiple times, just purely baseball, against analytics. He says he doesn't want to use them, which we've seen time and time again. The two most analytically inclined teams went to the World Series, right? The deal breaker there was the team with more money won. The team that was able to hold their stud players instead of having to try and get random dudes from the Cardinals who go to hit 11 home runs in the playoffs. Tony La Russa is a very weird, very un-White Sox guy. I mean, I thought they were going to get Hinch. I mean, Robert, what do you think of this Tony La Russa signing?
Yeah, it's a really weird signing. Obviously, aside from, what Alex was saying about the racial issues that Tony La Russa's had in the past, I mean, he's that type of old style manager. He hasn't managed since 2011. Obviously longtime manager of the Cardinals. was successful there. But, I think the problem is he's kind of this old guard type of manager. And I don't know if that's going to work with a young up and coming team that, is trying to revolve itself around analytics like the Chicago White Sox. He's going to move away from what Rick Renteria and the White Sox are trying to do. So I don't know how this is going to go for the White Sox. It has, owner hire all over it. It doesn't seem like any of the players had input on this. I don't know how they feel about it, but if I were them, I don't know if I'd be super excited. I mean, it's this old style of manager that is going to go away from the type of game you're trying to push. And, he's going to have things, Tony La Russa is going to have things his way. And it's going to be, there's a potential there for, the dugout and the locker room to get a little bit frustrated with each other. So I don't know. I don't like the hire on paper. Maybe it'll surprise us. I doubt it. But yeah, a really, really questionable hire in my opinion.
Speaking of questionable things MLB is doing, how about having the Gold Glove ceremony and announcing during election night? I mean, if MLB could have some feel just for one day, it would be amazing.
I didn't even know they were doing it last night. Like, I was just on Twitter. I had the news on, obviously, trying to figure out what's going on in the election. And all of a sudden, I see Gold Glove getting announced on Twitter. I was like, why on earth is the MLB doing this right now? Like, have some common sense. No one's going to be paying attention to this. No one cares about the Gold Glove, especially on election night. Like, if this was a standalone thing, nothing else is going on, maybe you'll get people to care about it. But for the most part, like, the Gold Glove is not a big deal anymore. Managers have said, like, most of the time, I just let the bat boy, like, pick last year's winner or something. It's not that big of an award anymore. Why are you doing it when you know nobody's going to watch?
Yeah, if you're going to have, like, a big ceremony, have it Monday when no one's going to be paying attention to the election. To have it specifically on Tuesday makes absolutely no sense because, like you said, no one's going to watch it. I saw on Twitter, the first thing I saw was Bueller's tweet about Cody Bellinger not winning the Gold Glove in center field, which I can kind of get behind. He played like 19 games at first base. Grisham played all of his games in center field. Grisham was a little bit better in center field, just with the volume included. I mean, Robert, how screwed is MLB in terms of just completely boneheaded decisions right now?
Yeah, it seems like it, doesn't it? I mean, the MLB has always been terrible at marketing itself. It does not, much like the NHL, they just do not market themselves very well. It's very hard to grow the game. That's why everybody talks about, the MLB becoming a dying league, a dying sport. It's because they don't know how to market themselves, and they make dumb decisions like this where, you could have the attention, maybe not national attention, but at least sports attention on you for one night. And people say, look, here's our really great players. You should watch them next season. They're really, really good. They're the best defensive players at their position. And then, you put it out on election night and nobody's paying attention. And they're like looking at their Twitter through a feed of just craziness on election night. And then they're like, oh, Gold Glove winners. Didn't know that was happening tonight. That's fun. It's weird. I don't know. Yeah, it's a very big problem for this league, and it's gonna be an issue until they learn how to actually grow this through marketing.
Speaking of some issues with the league, just free agency this year is going to be a nightmare. Charlie Morton, I think his option was like $15 million, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Option declined. Colton Wong, Gold Glove, literally a Gold Glove winner this year. I've had to look through Twitter to find that, obviously. But Gold Glove winner this year, I think he had like a $10 million option, declined. Brad Hand led the American League in saves, I'm pretty sure, $10 million option for an elite relief pitcher whose velocity was up, his spin rate was still the same, declined. I mean, Alex, how worried are you for these like mid-level, mid-tier, because the studs are still going to get paid.
Yeah.
Might get paid less, but they're still going to get paid. How worried are you for these mid and average MLB free agents, just that they're even going to get a job?
Yeah, no, seeing Morton and Brad Hand get declined, I was in shock because I thought those two guys were for sure going to be back on the Rays and Cleveland again, but it didn't turn out that way. And if I'm Morton, I'm scared because I'm getting old. I'm older. Am I going to have a job? Is the team going to take a chance on me? Clearly, he can still pitch. He's a good pitcher. He's one of the best in the league. If not, he's one of, if not the best big game pitcher in baseball right now. He should be on the team. If I'm the Yankees, I'm looking at him because Paxton's probably gone. Tanaka might be gone. Happ is definitely gone. Go if you're the Yankees, go get Morton. Go get Morton or go get Stroman. But yeah, no, the middle tier guys are gonna suffer here because it doesn't seem like teams are gonna want to spend money, and they're gonna be the ones that get hurt by this.
Yeah, I think we might see a lot of like shorter 1-year deals. Robert, what do you think is going to happen in the landscape of free agency this offseason?
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think you're going to see a lot of short-term deals, 1 to 2 years maybe. I don't think a lot of these lower teams, a lot of these, not as valuable teams are not going to be able to spend as much as they'd like to get, the pitching and the staffing that they need. You have big free agents. Alex mentioned 3 of them with Tanaka, Paxton, and Happ. Maybe Happ's not so much a big free agent, but the other 2 are. Stroman's a free agent. Trevor Bauer's a free agent. That's the big one. He's going to get a ton of money, I'm sure. So there's a lot of guys, out there that are free agents that are going to take precedent over some of these mid-tier pitchers and mid-tier players like Wong and Morton, where, Morton, has been great for the Rays and, didn't do great in the World Series, but before that was pretty solid for them. So yeah, it's going to be really weird. It definitely favors the bigger spending teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, these teams that are inclined to spend a lot of money. The Mets, yeah, exactly. These teams that have, millionaire, billionaire owners who can go and spend money. But absolutely, these teams like the Rays are at a disadvantage because they don't want to spend that much on a pitching staff or on their club because they don't need to. So it definitely hurts both the mid-tier teams and the mid-tier players. It's going to be a very interesting winter off season because there's going to be a lot of free agents, I think, hanging around waiting for a contract.
Yeah, last but not least, Blake Trinan, on I think it was Mad Dog Radio yesterday, said that MLB officials led Justin Turner back on the field after the World Series. That's huge. It's another case of Rob Manfred, doing whatever he can to save the public face, putting the blame all on the players, all on the team, and never taking responsibility for what he could have done. If he's telling the world that Justin Turner, refused to comply with MLB, in my eyes, that's a load of crap. You are Major League Baseball. You are the governing body. If you don't want Justin Turner on that field, he does not go on that field. These comments by Trinan yesterday, obviously it's one person, but given Rob Manfred's track record, I'm inclined to believe him. Alex, how disappointing is this news?
I mean, it just goes along with literally everything about Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball. I mean, no matter where you turn, they're messing up somewhere. You could look at marketing. They suck. You can look at how they've handled this COVID situation. It's been bad. You can look at how they handled the Astros cheating scandal. It's also sucked. Like, they can do nothing right. And it feels like whenever all Manfred has to do is say, you know what, guys, I was wrong. Just say I was wrong. And, we didn't play the situation right. It's not that hard to admit you're wrong. Just say, I could have done this better. I'm sorry. We should have done this differently. But instead, it's not. It was Justin Turner's fault, right? Stop placing the blame elsewhere. You are MLB. If you want something to happen, you can make it happen. It's your sport. Stop placing the blame on other people.
Robert, seeing the Dodgers unofficial team captain go, what was your reaction to this news?
Yeah, I mean, not surprising. I think we kind of knew that the MLB was shifting the blame there a little bit. Being the MLB, being the commissioner, you have absolute power to make a decision and to, enforce your own rules. And if they didn't want Justin Turner out there, they wouldn't have had him out there. You can call security on him. You can tell him, no, you don't go back on the field. Whether Turner, would have raised a fuss about that or not, I don't know. But from everything we're seeing so far, Justin Turner's teammates wanted him there. And now it seems like the MLB officials were fine with him staying there. So I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore with the MLB. Rob Manfred is just completely lost. He's, we've said this before. He's the worst commissioner in sports by a pretty wide margin now. Doesn't know what he's doing. It's a problem, and it's going to be a problem moving forward because there's going to be other hot button issues, whether it's, a potential lockout at some point, whatever happens, in the future with the MLB the next couple of seasons with Manfred. I'm sure there's going to be something, and he's going to find a way to bungle it. So it's not going to get any better. It's just, it is what it is at this point. The MLB's got a bad commissioner, and they're poorly run.
Yep. Baseball's a cluster. America's a cluster right now. But I think that's where we're going to call it today. Robert, Alex, thank you so much for being on. And everyone is listening, I hope you give this a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next week.